Zidane Danny, Electro Ninja here, and welcome back to Electro Ninja's Lab. In today's video, we are going to be talking about Hunter's Guild Red Hood, chapters 12 and 13. Now, these chapters are really interesting. The first of these chapters, chapter 12, mostly deals with Bonkers, and why he was a bit of an asshole, but also why he had taken the test so many times. It was actually a bit insane to me getting to learn about his backstory, and it made me realize that Bonkers may very well become one of the main characters of the series moving forward. Obviously, I expect characters like Velo and Grim to continue to be the two main characters of the story. I mean, come on, they're on the frickin' cover, for crying out loud. But I think that we can now at least partially theorize about who the remaining main characters will be. I absolutely think that Milty and Tilty will more than likely still be relatively main characters. They've had a lot of development, they've kind of grown together, and we'll see more about that in the next chapter, but in chapter 12, we get to see Bonkers' backstory, finding out that he was someone who wanted to help a ton of people. There was an attack that happened, and as such, and his town was suffering. As the richest person in the town, he opened up his home as a safe place where people could rest, people could come in and relax for a bit, and people were not too happy about that. One of these people happened to catch on fire, got in a lot of trouble. Bonkers got his throat burned, and that's why he's in his thing. Yeah. And we get to see what exactly happened to him. Since he is in such a rough spot and has so many debts to pay, he runs around and stocks up on money, tries to find a safe place where he can stay for a few months, which, let's just be honest, he can basically stay on the train for basically years, and never have to worry about it, because he can just go back and forth this entire time. He can work his hardest to stay on the train for the first, to get to the test, and then he just trains some more. It's interesting. It's a smart way to work things. But at the end, we get to see that that's not enough for the rest of them. They think that he absolutely deserves to be a hunter. Even if Bonkers himself doesn't believe that he deserves to be a hunter, the others do believe in him. They believe in what he has done over the past while, and as such, they're going to help him in becoming a hunter. That is the goal of this chapter 12. But chapter 13 continues that aspect and reveals that, she is very old. Grim is a lot older than we think, because Grim has actually been working alongside these people for a long time, and it actually kind of reveals something that I didn't really expect. I don't think she's actually testing them fairly by any degree. Sure, she goes all out for the fight, but she's leaving them. She's letting them go, and she's teaching them. In these moments, her goal is to teach these students. To a certain degree, she reminds me a lot of Aizawa. Let's just be honest here. Putting these kids through, I guess they're not kids, but the point is, putting these people through these rigorous training regiments and being aware that they need to work hard to get to this point. They need to continue to fight. They need to continue to get better. And that is her goal here. Her goal is to make sure that as many people continue to become hunters as possible, but also continue to grow. And honestly, I kind of love this. And it's also really interesting, to say the least, because most manga actually are more in first person, to a degree. Having the characters telling the story as it's happening. Specifically, Deku tells the story multiple times. Now, sure, it's not 100% first person, and there are multiple third person things, but in this moment, I'm starting to realize that Hunter's Guild isn't first person, it's third person. While focusing, sure, on characters like Velo, it's got a lot of those extra bits that could be from anyone's point of view, and reveals a lot of things. Just interesting, to say the least. It's reminiscent of a lot of books nowadays over here in America. While manga appears to be in first person, told through a first person perspective, many of our books here in America are told via third person. Just an interesting factor to keep in mind. And we'll talk more about this as we continue through the story, but it's rather interesting to point out. But we also get to see that Tilty and Milty are actually growing better people. Apparently, Tilty had a messed up time last time that he went through this trial. While he was fighting through it, he had a lot of teammates, but they betrayed him, and as such, he doesn't think that he can actually afford working alongside anyone. But it's Bonkers who tells him, no, I'm sorry that I messed up and I didn't warn you about what was going on. I didn't help you. That is on me, 100%. But don't think that I'm going to do it again, please. And know that under no circumstances would Velo ever do that to you. Velo 100% believes in this team aspect and this idea of working together to make sure that things go smoothly. And it is insane. I love it. There's a lot of really cool aspects throughout this throughout chapter 13 and 12. And like I said, I love just all of the work that the creator is putting into this series, because it's so much fun seeing these characters and their development. And I'm honestly so excited to see how the story is going to continue moving forward into the next few chapters. It's a lot of fun. And honestly, it just gets me more excited for next month when Hunter's Guild releases over in Japan. Sure, I may not be able to get the volume right away, or probably be able to read it very well, but I still want to get my hands on the manga and read it, because there's just so much of a connection in these characters, and I absolutely love it. I love seeing how these characters have developed and how they have become better and better over these past few years. And things are only going to be getting better as we continue through this story. And honestly, I 100% believe that, well, Hunter's Guild is going to become one of the top-rated manga and probably top-rated anime of all time as we continue forward. It may be a bit low on the list right now, but it 100% is going to get higher. Now, I do want to briefly talk about who I believe will be the main characters moving forward. Now, obviously, we know that Grimm and Velo are going to continue to be the main characters. Grimm may have a little bit less time, becoming more and more of an All Might type character as we continue forward with the story, but I think that, but 100%, I still think that she's going to be a major player of the cast. But I also think that we should at least be thinking about who else is going to become major characters. Who is going to be the team that Velo takes with him on his journeys? Because this chapter solidified in my mind that 100% Velo is going to be teaming up with these characters as they move forward. And firstly, I mentioned Tilty and Milty. I mentioned these two characters all the way back in their introduction, and that they're going to be main characters moving forward. Let's just be honest, that makes a ton of sense. There's no debating it. They've been important so far. They've continued to develop. putting all this development into these characters and then not having them be main characters, it makes no sense. Bonkers, again, has that bit of has a lot of character development that really feels like this is going to be one of those characters that's going to be rather important moving forward. Now, as for the other characters, firstly, I want to address the three in the other group. The basically, I always forget their names, so I'm going to call them Wind, Girl, and Mold. These three are probably not going to become main characters as prominently. I still think that they're going to appear multiple times, but I think that they're going to be more like the other teachers at UA. Still being important, or but not as much. More, actually, I would compare them more to Shinso. Having a lot of important aspects to them, but they're not necessarily going to remain to be main characters. Sure, they've got a bit of development now, and will probably continue to get more development later down the line, but they're not going to be as big of main characters. Shinso gets more development, has gotten more development recently, and will probably get more development as in the next few chapters, 100% in My Hero. But he's not really that much of an important character. That's kind of what these characters feel like to me. More than likely, they will become more involved as we continue with the story, but as of right now, they're probably not going to be that important. And finally, there is one more character that I really want to bring up that I think could be a main character, and that is the other girl, Porsche, or whatever her name is. What even is her name? Because it's kind of complicated. It's a weird spelling, to say the least, but it's mentioned in this. So, Porsche, I guess, is probably what her name is. Porsche? I don't know. We'll see exactly how her name is pronounced when it eventually gets animated. Let's just be honest, it's gonna get animated at some point, because this is too good to not be animated. But she's probably going to be one of the main characters, actually. I don't know why I think that she's going to be one of the main characters, but there's just this feeling in my gut that's just telling me this is a main character, and I should be paying a lot more attention to her. She may not have that much I may not have that much evidence to point to her being a main character, but she feels like the Uraraka of the group. Like, let's say, I'd say that Tilty is the Ida of the group, with Bonkers being the Todoroki of the group, and maybe Milty being the Froppy, I'd say. Those are kind of what I'm thinking of, just using the Deku squad as an example. Important characters. Basically, Milty is important, but she's not seen that often, and yet she's a fan favorite. She's 100. Let's just be honest, she's going to be a fan favorite. Tilty, serious guy, 100%. I 100% think that he's going to be that character. And Bonkers had a really intense backstory. Blah blah blah. Todoroki. Let's just be honest here. So, yeah, those are some of the characters. And I think that is probably going to be how it's going to move forward. Makes sense, right? Please be what I'm thinking correctly. Maybe? I don't know. We'll see. Needless to say, we'll have to wait and see exactly how the characters are going to be reacting moving forward. But yeah, I think that's at least a reasonable possibility to think that these characters are going to be pretty important as we move forward. And Porcine, or whatever her name is, she's going to be the Uraraka. Fan favorite character for some reason, who just doesn't get that much screen time, and yet for some reason they're going to have that be the main character, the main character's love interest. I don't know, actually. That's actually not really true, but that's beside the point. If I'm remembering correctly, she's actually older than Bonkers. So, at least that's what it mentions in chapter 12, I believe. Yeah, that's interesting. But to be honest, we don't know how old Velo is. So, yeah. We'll have to wait and see exactly. But yeah, I briefly want to just mention that. Apparently, so she says, I was so sure he was over 30. He's younger than me, but he specifically mentions that, or Grimm specifically mentions that he is 23, which leads me to believe that she is probably 24 or 25 is my guess. But she looks younger than Velo, so that's why I'm not 100% certain. And we don't know Velo's age at this point, as far as I'm aware. So, yeah, that's going to be an interesting aspect of this story. We'll see how things turn out. But anyways, guys, hopefully you've enjoyed this video. If you guys did, please make sure to leave a like, leave your thoughts and theories down in the comments below. Of course, if you are going to leave a theory, make sure to say theory review somewhere in your comment. And of course, please make sure to ring that notification bell and subscribe if you haven't yet. And of course, if you guys do want to support the channel even more, then definitely head down to the description and check out all of our links down there, including our social medias, our other channels, and ways you can support us financially, including the merch store, the book, and of course our Patreon, which a big thank you to our current patrons, Sheeny and Joseph. And of course, if you guys haven't checked out the song yet, please make sure that you do head down to the description and check out our Spotify link, because honestly, we've got some really awesome songs there, and I really think that you guys are going to love Fly with Dragons, so definitely check it out. But anyways, guys, I've been Electro Ninja, and I will see you guys next time. But on!